911 operator. 911. What's your emergency? Terrell Edwards. I just shot my fiancé. Please help. She's bleeding. I need help now. The phone shakes in his hands. His breath is heavy. His voice cracks with panic. Terrell Edwards. Please. I need help. I shot her. She's on the floor. She's bleeding. Please. Please hurry. What started as a joyful evening, one filled with love and the excitement of a new chapter, would become a night that would change everything. It was October 9th, 2023, just around 11:30 p.m. Amanda S. Williams, a 46-year-old hairstylist, entrepreneur, and mother of two, was laying on the floor of her apartment, her life slipping away in front of the man she had planned to marry. Her name was Amanda. To many, she was more than just a stylist. She was a bright light in a world that often felt dim. A woman who had worked tirelessly to build a life of her own. A woman who had a dream that, on this night, was cruelly stolen from her. Everything had been leading to this moment. Amanda had just said yes to the man who, just hours earlier, had proposed to her. She thought she was stepping into a future full of love, security, and happiness. But something went terribly wrong. What was supposed to be a promise of forever became a nightmare. As the police rushed to the scene, they were unaware of the horror that awaited them inside. They arrived to find Amanda's lifeless body, her dream of marriage shattered in an instant. Terrell Edwards, the man she had trusted, the man she had loved, now stood as the only one who could explain the unthinkable. And yet, the truth seemed to be slipping through his fingers as fast as the life that had been taken. Why did it happen? How could something so terrible unfold so quickly? What led to the death of a woman who had so much left to give? The answers would only come with time. But the chilling truth would unfold in a way that no one could have ever predicted. Silence for a moment. One thing was clear. Amanda's life had ended, and with it, a love story that seemed destined for happiness. Amanda's story began in Cleveland, Ohio, a place where dreams could either take root or be buried. But for Amanda, the seeds of ambition were planted early. Born on April 18, 1977, Amanda was raised in a tight-knit family where love, laughter, and support flowed freely. Her parents, George and Jewel, had instilled in her a strong sense of determination and a love for community, a foundation that would guide her through every step of her life. Amanda was never one to sit on the sidelines. From an early age, she dreamed of more. She wasn't content with just following the ordinary path. She wanted something bigger. Something that would not only fulfill her, but also help others. She was driven by a desire to create, to inspire, and to share her gifts with the world. Her love for beauty and fashion wasn't just a passing interest. It was a fire that burned deep within her. As a child, Amanda would spend hours watching beauty tutorials and experimenting with her own looks, transforming herself and her friends with nothing more than a pair of scissors and her natural eye for style. As she grew, Amanda knew that beauty wasn't just about appearances, it was about confidence. She realized that the right haircut or makeup could change not just how someone looked, but how they felt, and that would become her life's work. But it wasn't an easy road. Amanda faced struggles, setbacks, and countless long nights as she worked toward turning her passion into something real. Despite the challenges, Amanda's ambition was as big as her heart. She never gave up. She worked tirelessly, building her reputation as a talented stylist who could transform anyone's look and spirit. She wasn't just a hairstylist. She was a confidant, a friend, and a mentor to those who trusted her. Her clients didn't just leave her salon looking good. They left feeling empowered. Amanda's best friend remembers her like this. She was always the life of the party. Always positive, always lifting others up. She didn't just want to look good herself. She wanted everyone around her to shine, too. Amanda was more than just a woman who followed her dreams. She was the embodiment of hope, hard work, and resilience. And through it all, her smile never faded. But even the brightest lights can sometimes be dimmed. Her journey had only just begun, yet the road ahead would be far more treacherous than anyone could have ever imagined. Amanda had always known that beauty was more than skin deep. But by 2023, her passion for transforming lives had grown into something much larger than she had ever imagined. She wasn't just a hairstylist anymore. Amanda had built an empire. Her talent was undeniable. She quickly built a loyal following, turning every client into a walking advertisement for her skills. Her work spoke for itself. Every haircut, every style, every transformation, Amanda's hands brought confidence back to those who sought her out. But Amanda wasn't just about the craft. She was a visionary, a woman with a business mind as sharp as her scissors. In 2023, after years of hustle, she opened her own salon, Lamb Mode Styles, in University Heights, a trendy area near downtown Cleveland. It was more than just a salon, it was her dream come to life. She posted with pride on social media, showcasing her work, her products, and the joy of owning her own business. Her followers could feel her energy through the screen. She was a rising star in the beauty world, sharing every milestone with those who had supported her from the beginning. Through Instagram and Facebook, Amanda didn't just share beauty tips and transformations, she sold products too. From hair care to extensions, Amanda had built her own brand. She wasn't just the face of Lamb Mode Styles, she was the brand itself. Yet, despite all her success, something started to shift. Amanda's professional world was flourishing, but behind the scenes, her personal life was beginning to unravel. Behind the bright smile and the busy salon, there were cracks in Amanda's world. Her relationship with Terrell, the man she had trusted and loved, was slowly deteriorating. The tension that started as small disagreements began to grow, festering into something darker. Amanda was doing everything she could to hold it together. But no one could escape the truth. Her dream was starting to feel more fragile than ever. Amanda had built a life filled with success, family, and love. But sometimes, no matter how hard we work to create our dreams, life has a way of throwing us off course. The stage was set, but Amanda's rise to the top was about to face an unexpected fall, one that no one could have predicted. Terrell Edwards, Amanda's fiancé, was a man many saw as the perfect partner. At first glance, he seemed to embody everything Amanda could have wanted. A steady job at a hospital, a side gig working at Walmart. Terrell was hardworking, dependable, and always eager to show his affection for Amanda. They appeared to be the picture of love. They shared their lives openly on social media, posting videos of their moments together, vacations, anniversaries, and birthdays. To the world, their relationship seemed effortless, a fairy tale of modern romance. Amanda often shared how proud she was to have found someone like Terrell. But sometimes, the reality behind the smiles isn't as perfect as it seems. For all the affection they showed to the outside world, there was another side to Terrell, one that only Amanda truly knew. Behind closed doors, the story was different. What began as a whirlwind romance soon turned into a series of arguments and disagreements. Amanda, the woman who once shined so brightly, began to feel the weight of a relationship that was no longer as fulfilling as it once had been. Terrell, the man who had once swept Amanda off her feet, was slowly revealing a side of himself that she had never imagined. The jealousy, the control, the manipulation, it started with small comments, subtle gestures. But over time, it grew into something darker. Friends and family began to notice the change in Amanda. The bright, confident woman they once knew was becoming more withdrawn, more anxious. Her posts on social media, once filled with joy, began to reflect the strain she was feeling. The man who had promised to love and cherish her had begun to change, and so had their relationship. Amanda's love for Terrell was real, but so were the warning signs she had started to ignore. Beneath his warm smile, Terrell had secrets that would ultimately lead them down a path neither of them could return from. While the world saw the man who seemed to adore her, Amanda was seeing something else, something she could no longer ignore. From the outside, Amanda and Terrell's relationship seemed like a fairy tale, two people who had found love and built a life together. But behind closed doors, things were beginning to fall apart. What had once felt like a dream was quickly becoming a nightmare. As time went on, the love between them started to erode. The arguments, which were once small disagreements, began to escalate, growing more intense, more frequent. There was a sense of jealousy that seemed to seep into everything they did, like a poison in their relationship. Terrell's once loving nature was now clouded with possessiveness. Friends who had seen the couple together in the beginning started noticing the changes. At first, it was hard to pinpoint, but slowly, it became clear. Amanda had begun to withdraw. The bright, confident woman she once was now seemed tired, always on edge, always walking on eggshells. I noticed it right away. She wasn't herself anymore. She would tell me about their fights, about the things Terrell would say when he was angry, but she'd always brush it off, telling me that things would get better. She was afraid. I could see it, but she didn't want to admit it. Every time they had a fight, she would say, "It's nothing. We're fine. We'll work through it." But deep down, I could tell something was wrong. Amanda tried to make it work. She believed that love could fix everything. But what no one could have predicted was that slowly, the relationship was turning toxic. The emotional manipulation, the controlling behavior, it was becoming too much to ignore. Terrell's words were sharp, his actions more unpredictable. Amanda, ever the optimist, tried to hold on to hope. But the cracks were getting deeper. Every argument was like a crack in the foundation of what had once been a solid relationship. Terrell's jealousy flared. He would accuse Amanda of things that weren't true, and she would apologize, trying to keep the peace. She knew, deep down, that something wasn't right, but the man she loved had a way of making her believe it was all her fault. By now, Amanda was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. She had given so much of herself, yet still found herself standing in the shadows of a man who seemed to care less and less. The love she had once felt was being replaced with fear, doubt, and confusion. None of this happened overnight. It was the slow unraveling of something that once seemed perfect. The cracks, once small and barely noticeable, were now too wide to ignore. Amanda's dream had become a nightmare, and the worst was yet to come. What began as a fairy tale slowly transformed into something darker. But beneath the surface, things were beginning to change. What once seemed like a partnership built on trust and affection was now cracking under the weight of jealousy, manipulation, and control. The arguments started small misunderstandings, disagreements. But as time passed, they grew in intensity. Terrell's jealousy began to seep into every corner of their lives. Amanda's every move, every conversation, became scrutinized, questioned, doubted. Slowly, Amanda's confidence began to fade, replaced by anxiety. At first, it was hard to notice, but I could see it. Amanda wasn't the same. She was different. She became more withdrawn, more anxious. She was so much happier before they started fighting all the time. No one could have predicted it, but slowly, the love between Amanda and Terrell began to turn toxic. What was once a dream became a nightmare, as arguments escalated and red flags were ignored. Amanda, the woman who once embraced life with so much joy, was now struggling to keep her head above water in a relationship that seemed to be draining her. Amanda tried to hold it all together. She tried to believe that the man she loved could change, that the love they shared could be enough to overcome the tension. But the cracks were growing wider, and Terrell's behavior grew more erratic. His controlling nature was now undeniable, keeping tabs on her, telling her who she could see and where she could go. The man who once called her his queen now seemed to view her as an object to possess. Despite all the signs, Amanda continued to make excuses for Terrell's actions. She kept hoping, kept believing that things would get better. But the truth was clear to everyone around her, even if she couldn't see it herself. She was trapped in a cycle of emotional manipulation, a cycle that, with each passing day, tightened its grip on her. And just when Amanda began to find the strength to break free, the unthinkable happened. As the clock ticked, the gravity of Amanda's death began to set in. The police arrived at the scene shortly after the chilling 911 call. Inside, they found Amanda's lifeless body, a tragic sight that told its own haunting story. The woman who had once been full of life was now gone, her dreams, her future, snuffed out in an instant. Terrell Edwards, the man who had once promised to love and protect Amanda, was now the one under suspicion. He was immediately detained by law enforcement, and what followed would determine if his claim of self-defense was true or if there was something much darker at play. Terrell Edwards, I just shot my fiancé. Please help. She's bleeding. I need help now. The police questioned Terrell at the scene. He explained that the situation had escalated, an argument had turned violent, and in a moment of fear, he claimed he acted in self-defense. But as they delved deeper, the inconsistencies in his story began to surface. We found that his version of events didn't fully line up with the evidence we had at the scene, one investigator said. Terrell's statements were fragmented, and key details didn't match what we were seeing. He claimed Amanda had attacked him, but the physical evidence suggested otherwise. Terrell's words, once the final confession, were now the center of suspicion. The man who had once been the center of Amanda's world was now the prime suspect in her death. What had started as a loving relationship had become a nightmare, and the truth seemed to slip further away with each new revelation. The police collected the evidence, piecing together what had happened that night. The gun Terrell had used, the bloodstains, the witnesses who had heard arguing, it all painted a picture. But still, there was a question that loomed large. Was this really an act of self-defense, or was it something much darker? The facts didn't add up. Terrell Edwards had told his story, but the evidence didn't align with his account. The man who had once promised to protect Amanda was now the man accused of taking her life. The investigation was just beginning, and the truth, whatever it might be, was waiting to be uncovered. One question remained: who was the real Terrell Edwards? The loving fiancé, or the man who had set the wheels of tragedy in motion? After months of waiting, the moment of reckoning had finally arrived. Terrell Edwards, the man accused of ending Amanda Williams' life, was now standing trial. What had begun as a tragic night in October had become a battle for justice, one that would unfold in the courtroom. Terrell's defense team wasted no time making their claim. It was self-defense. They argued that, in the heat of a violent confrontation, Terrell had feared for his life and acted in the only way he thought would protect him. According to them, Amanda had attacked him, forcing his hand. But as the trial progressed, the truth began to surface, and the story Terrell had told was being pulled apart, piece by piece. The prosecution wasted no time in presenting the evidence that would contradict his version of events. One of the most crucial pieces of evidence was the cell phone footage. Captured on Terrell's own phone, it showed the moments leading up to the shooting. What it revealed was shocking. Amanda, though visibly upset, was not attacking him as he had claimed. Instead, the video showed her trying to calm the situation down, moving away from him. Yet Terrell, armed with a gun, opened fire. This was not a moment of self-defense. This was something far darker. The prosecution argued that this was not a spontaneous act in self-defense, but a premeditated decision, a choice made by a man who had been plotting his next move for days. They presented evidence of Terrell's growing temper, his emotional manipulation, and the chilling reality of a man who had no intention of walking away from the relationship. As the trial unfolded, it became clear that the question was no longer about the events of that night. It was about something much deeper: what kind of man Terrell Edwards truly was. A man who had promised to protect Amanda, but instead chose to betray her in the most violent and irreversible way. The prosecution's case was strong, but so was the defense. Terrell's lawyers continued to paint him as a victim, a man pushed to the edge. But the jury had to decide: was this truly self-defense, or was it the result of a man who had been hiding his true nature all along? The trial would continue for weeks, but the truth was already starting to take shape. And with it came the bitter realization: Amanda had trusted the wrong person, and now her life was a casualty of that trust. The question that haunted everyone in that courtroom remained: would Terrell Edwards face justice, or would he escape the consequences of the life he had taken? The trial had been long, filled with twists, turns, and heartbreaking revelations. Every day, the courtroom was filled with a sense of anticipation. Would justice be served, or would the man responsible for Amanda's death escape the consequences of his actions? As the jury filed into the deliberation room, every eye in the courtroom was fixed on them. They were tasked with making a decision that would forever alter the course of Terrell Edwards' life and provide some measure of justice for the woman he had once promised to love and protect. The evidence against Terrell was overwhelming. The inconsistencies in his testimony, his conflicting statements, the holes in his story raised doubts that could no longer be ignored. The cell phone footage was damning. It showed Amanda in the moments before she was shot, moving away from Terrell, not attacking him, as he had claimed. The video painted a different picture, a picture of a man who had taken a life in cold blood. The medical examiner's testimony further sealed the case. Amanda's injuries told the story of a woman who had been shot multiple times, a woman who never had a chance to defend herself. No amount of self-defense claims could explain away the cold brutality of that night. The jury deliberated for what seemed like an eternity. In the end, their decision was clear. Terrell Edwards was found guilty of 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of felony assault, and 1 count of domestic violence. For Amanda's family, the relief of hearing the guilty verdict was bittersweet. The man who had taken their loved one's life was now facing justice, but it was cold comfort for a loss that would never be undone. The pain of Amanda's absence would remain with them forever. Justice had been served, but for Amanda's family, it would never bring her back. The price of love lost, the price of trust betrayed, could never be measured in a courtroom. And while Terrell Edwards would face the consequences of his actions, Amanda's legacy, the light she had brought to so many, would live on. Amanda's story, though tragically cut short, was far from forgotten. And in the end, it was her family, her friends, and her community who would carry her memory forward. The day Amanda Williams was laid to rest, a community was left in shock. A vibrant woman, full of ambition, love, and hope, was now gone, taken too soon by the hands of the man she trusted most. Her family, her friends, her clients, all gathered to mourn the woman who had touched so many lives in her brief time on this earth. The weight of her loss was felt deeply by all who knew her. Her children, now without their mother, clung to memories of her warmth and laughter, while her loved ones tried to make sense of a life that had been so full of promise, now snatched away in an instant. Amanda's children, Tyler and Trist, will forever carry the pain of losing their mother. But even in their grief, they hold on to the lessons she taught them, the strength, the love, the ambition to never stop dreaming, no matter the obstacles. They remember her not for the way she died, but for the way she lived. Amanda's dream of building a salon, a space for beauty, confidence, and empowerment, lives on. Alam Mode Styles, which she poured her heart and soul into, stands as a testament to her hard work, her vision, and her unwavering dedication to helping others. Though she's no longer there, her influence can still be felt in every client who walks through the door, every stylist who carries on her work. Though Amanda's life was cut tragically short, her legacy lives on through the people she touched, the lives she changed, the love she gave, and the lessons she left behind. The fight for justice may have brought some closure, but the wounds of grief will never fully heal. Her family, her friends, her community, they will carry the weight of her loss for the rest of their lives. The case of Amanda S. Williams serves as a solemn reminder of how quickly love can turn to tragedy. It's a story of ambition, betrayal, and heartbreak. But perhaps, most of all, it's a call for all of us to pay closer attention to the signs of abuse and manipulation before it's too late. Amanda's death is not just a story of loss, it's a call to action. Let us honor Amanda's memory by sharing her story, by standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves, and by looking out for those who may be silently suffering. If you or someone you know is in need of help, please reach out. No one should have to face abuse alone. Thank you for watching. And remember, no story is ever truly over.